day. It's just good afternoon. I always say good morning, but good afternoon. We are here with Officer Tony from Cincinnati Police Department. And as every single month, the first Thursday of each month, we are here talking about U visas. I know that you want all to speak that we speak in Spanish, but he's not ready. But he said that he will be ready in couple of months or weeks. What did you say?
Yes.
Months. Okay, so oh my goodness, I'm so excited for that. So he is bringing very important information about a new law in Cincinnati that just passed. That is just very important. And then you mentioned that you wanted to talk about what is very essential to communicate with when you are filing a report. And maybe we can also keep talking about the qualifying crimes for the U visa.
Absolutely. Yes.
Which one do you want to pick?
So let's start with being able to make a report.
Okay.
So there's a variety of ways that you would make a police report. One is being able to call 911 and the officers respond. Another way is coming to a district. Or there's always in between things like if an incident occurs and an officer arrives to where you're at. So the important thing is to be able to have the information that the officer needs to be able to make the report, because at the end of the day, we're here to service you and help you. So some things that people do not know in the state of Ohio and really in the country, it is law that you have to be able to identify yourself. And so you have to be able to provide the officer your name, your date of birth, and your address. Well, these are the exact same three things that we need to be able to make a report. So you would be able to have those to be able to start to initiate a report for whatever the offense is that you may be a victim of. Once you're able to do that, then we need the things that occur to you. So then we know what elements that happen to you that fit what crime that we're working with here. So, for example, we talked about domestic violence the previous time. So for domestic violence to happen, there needs to be criteria. First of all, there either needs to be a threat or an attempt of physical harm to the victim. And then there has to be some connection between the victim and the suspect, whether it be, spouse, husband and wife, or it could be parent to children or children to parent, or it could be siblings. And those are a few of the ways.
Or in-laws.
Yeah, they could be in-laws. So there's a few of the ways that would connect those. But we would need those information to be able to fit that, and then we could say, hey, we do have an offense for domestic violence, and then we need to take action based on those.
So the question, comes into what about if they do not speak English and they are so afraid to tell you guys come, and then are like, okay, so I am Juan. When I work, but I am Jose. I'm real Jose. Which name should I give?
Right. Well, so I can give you an example with me at work. So for a lot of people that know me, they call me Tony, but my real name is Anthony. And so it's not too common for people to call me either or, but most people that don't really know me, they'll call me Anthony. For people that know me, they call me Tony. So here in law enforcement, they call me Officer Johnson. They don't use either one of my first names. So it's important to understand, the means and the way and the why that you're doing it. So, for example, if you're at work and people, call me Johnson and Officer Johnson, there's 1,000 Officer Johnsons, so to be able to clarify and find out who is doing what. But we're friends and we're really cool. So you call me Tony all the time. And that's how that works. Well, in your role here in law enforcement, especially when it comes to, being a victim of crime, looking for the support, you should use your full name. And you should use both, because I know here you don't usually use two last names, but in our Latin America world and stuff like that, there's always two last names. Well, you want to clearly be able to define who you are. And so being able to tell us your whole name, there won't be any confusion when we go to court, or if we're filing a U visa for your protection, or a T visa if it's human trafficking protection. That way, we're not going to immigration court and they're like, well, we're not sure who this person is, or why doesn't have their whole name on here. This is why. Because then there are times we have to go back in reports and fix the names.
That is, I love how you explain it. I love the subtlety of your explanation and your answer. And so we have to think. So let me see if I understand. Do we have to think in the place that we are
Mhm.
So based on the place that we are in, the role that we are having at that moment, we have to understand what is uh, the the identity that we have to provide, right?
Absolutely.
I always tell my clients, what happened if they give out an alias or a nickname to the police. Still we can file a U visa.
Mhm.
We have just to provide that evidence, or saying, well, if you are I'm Day,
Mhm.
so if I'm Day and I'm called Day, and if I file the police report under Day and my real name is Dayfilia in the U
Mhm.
visa, I wanted it to be Dayfilia because
Mhm.
I no, it's not Day is not my real name.
Yes.
So it is just, maybe we can provide an affidavit, or we can provide a document, a picture ID, and also immigration will take that. So
Mhm.
I have one U visas where probably is not even a nickname. It is
Yes.
very different. Where
Mhm.
it's like Tomas and Pedro, they are very
Mhm.
different. They are
Mhm.
not even similar.
Sure.
And immigration wants to know that that's the real person. So
Mhm.
immigration doesn't even care about that.
Mhm.
What they care, it is that you are truthful.
Yes.
And I guess that you go by the same values.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if again, we're a service to our victims and people that need us. So if we're getting information that's not truthful, then that already endangers our investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is we're working for you to be able to solve the case, provide
Mm-hmm.
assistance. And again, I know a lot of people look at police as just arresting and taking to jail, but we have victim services that help the victims. I mean, you can get reimbursed for financial loss in some
Mm-hmm.
circumstances. I mean, there's a lot of other services that are accompanied with us that is vitally important that we clearly know who we're dealing with and everybody is truthful in this, because at the end of the day, we have multiple entities that are here to service, the offense or the problem that we're trying to solve.
Okay. So what happened when you go to a place to report a crime, or it sounds like there is a crime in progress,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden you are kind of learning that the victim is truly truthful, that is not truthful. Are you start second guessing what is happening?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
Mm-hmm.
so in the process of the investigation, I mean, again, there's a bunch of layers here that we're trying to again assist the victim. That's what we're here for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there are things that if we start finding that things are not correct or not consistent with what's being said, then yes, we definitely are questioning what we're doing here, what's happening, what really happened. Do we
Mm-hmm.
really have a victim at this point?
Yeah.
Um, but not only that, it hurts. Again, if you're a victim of a qualifying crime for a U visa, that that pulls the rug out from under this investigation and literally stops it or harms it, because one of the mandates is that you are cooperating
Mm-hmm.
with police and that you are truthful in the information that you're giving us for us to be able to certify and say, yes, we are here trying to protect this victim. We don't want them deported. We want to be able to commit all of our resources to help solve this crime and keep the victim with us here.
Yeah, so that's what I tell also the clients. Please give the full name,
Mhm.
provide an identification, a picture ID,
Mhm.
even though it is from their country. So it
Mhm.
can be a passport. You can take a passport.
Mhm.
You can take a matricula, which only gives it from Guatemala or Mexico. Sadly, the other countries do not give a matricula or consular ID,
Mhm.
or any other identification. Would you be okay if they show you work ID?
So yes and no. It really depends on the work ID that you're getting it from.
Mm-hmm.
That's one. But there are other ways and means to get IDs, especially here. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, we do a Mark ID event every other month here in the city of Cincinnati, and that provides immigrants and refugees with an ID that answers those three questions: your name, your date of birth, and your address.
Mm-hmm.
We've also worked with the consulates to provide current addresses, not the addresses from back at home, but
Mm-hmm.
current addresses here. And
Mm-hmm.
so they can go and let's say I live at 3201 Warsaw,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm from Guatemala. Well, if I go to the Guatemalan consulate and say, "Hey, I need a new consular ID,"
Mm-hmm.
they can put my name, my date of birth, and my address here.
Mm-hmm.
And so that helps to satisfy that as well.
Yeah, but it also only happens in Cincinnati, right? If you live in Cincinnati, in the city of Cincinnati.
Well, no, that was the thing that we've been working on the last few years, is that your different consulates will update it and do it for people in the region.
Oh no, I'm saying the Mark ID.
Oh, no, the Mark ID actually, there's a few states. One is in North Carolina. They
Oh.
provide them. but definitely here up in Dayton,
Mm-hmm.
we're working with Columbus now to try to get them to start an initiative there. But it's the ID is renewable every 2 years, and a lot of people are accepting it. I mean, all the way down into Kentucky as well.
That is awesome.
Mhm.
I didn't know. That is awesome. So anybody that doesn't know about the Mark ID, it was an initiative like it happened a couple of years ago, like 5 years ago,
Sure. Mhm.
and it is a city issue ID.
Yes.
So for all those immigrants that do not have a social security number, a work authorization, or something that or a state, or they live in a state that they cannot get a governmental ID,
Mhm.
you can get an ID from the city, and that's extremely useful and valuable
Mhm.
because when they are interacting with officers, police, and law enforcement, or any other in any other means, we have to be able to provide an identity,
Yeah.
an identification. So that have helped us here in Cincinnati a lot. That's good.
Absolutely, because the ID here
Mhm.
locally goes to, I mean, hundreds of services. I
Mm.
mean, even Duke Electric, if you're trying to get a cell phone,
Mm.
WIC, Women's Infants and Children's Services.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even to get a library card. I
Mm.
mean, there's a number of things that you can use in and around the area. DirecTV, if you want to get cable,
Mm-hmm.
they accept the ID. So
Yeah.
I also make
Mm-hmm.
another point. Even if you have a social, let's say you have a green card,
Mm-hmm.
um, if you lose that green card, it's like 540 something bucks to replace.
No, it is
Oh, then it
1,225.
went up. so so it if you have a Mark ID, it's 20 bucks to replace.
Mm-hmm.
So even if you have a social and you have a green card, it's
Mm-hmm.
way better to have the Mark ID, and if something happens, you can replace easily than that green card or your
Yeah.
passport.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I do tell them, and they're very surprised when I say leave the work authorization document at home and
Mhm.
the green card at home.
Mhm.
I know that you wanted to have it with you because you feel secure having it on you.
Yeah.
And they say, well, what about if I make a photocopy of that? What do you think about that?
Well, if you make a photocopy, it does help, but when you're dealing with either services or police or fire or what have you, they're going to want some type of ID, and that's why the Mark ID, and that's just an example. You don't have to go with Mark, but any companies that have
Mm-hmm.
stuff similar, that is helpful because you have that information, and then you can have that printed copy or the photocopy, if you will, with you.
Yeah, I don't even advise to make a photocopy
Mm.
because I have had clients to be being charged of falsification because of the photocopy.
Well, that's why I say having one more
Mm,
piece of identification with the
yeah,
photocopy. But
I don't.
yes,
Yeah,
I mean, if it's just a photocopy by itself, it's not something that's going to be accepted.
yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
but again, if you Mark ID is one example, and then you have that, then that helps to be able to help identify you. Which again, by law, everyone has to do.
Yeah. So when you're reporting a crime, if you need to report that crime, make sure that you're providing the real information, the biographic information, which is the name,
Mhm.
the date of birth, and the address. Correct?
Yes, and in some cases, being like, let's say you're a refugee, you may not have that identification early
Mm-hmm.
on,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're a victim of a crime, we can work with the consulate to get that information and help identify our victims. So I don't want you to be fearful if you don't have like your passport or any type of identification on you if you're coming from the country that's in refugee status and they're bringing you here. Don't fear the fact that because you may not have those documents on you
Mm-hmm.
at this time that we can no we can completely help you. I've done that numerous times where we would contact the consulate, get proper identification, get all the information we need to be able to make the report.
Yeah, because probably if you don't have a picture ID, you probably have your birth certificate,
Mhm.
and at least something. It is useful for the police to help you.
Mhm.
So, what about if they don't speak? I always ask you this question, but we
Mhm.
have other people that is watching. So, what
Sure.
about if they don't speak English?
So that is not a problem either. I can speak for the city of Cincinnati. We have translators physical, and then we have phone interpreters that we can contact. So either way, we can communicate and get the information that we need back and forth. So there's
Mm-hmm.
no excuse for anybody here in the city of Cincinnati, but numerous agencies now, have gone to those services and have people that can translate. So yeah, may take a little longer because you're going through the translation and the information part of it, and sometimes it could be frustrating because I know for me when I'm dealing with somebody that speaks Spanish, they might get frustrated with me because I don't understand some of the stuff because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Spanish learner. So
Mm-hmm.
so it might take a little longer, but at least we're there to get the information and get the victim taken care of.
Okay, sounds
Mhm.
good. So when it comes about what happened in when they wanted to make a report, what do you think that is the most important element that they have to give to the officers?
Well, again, we'll go back to identifying yourself. So then
Mm-hmm.
we have your information to list you as a victim, and then the stuff that's occurred. So again, we use domestic violence, but let's say that you were, injured very seriously. So this could be felonious assault.
Mm-hmm.
So if a felonious assault happened, if we're not on the scene when it occurred, let's say this happened and you rush yourself to the hospital, and then this is like the next day when you're in recovery. Clearly we're going to need to know that you were injured, how you were injured, the location that it occurred,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have the exact address. So like if you were in front of the McDonald's on Glenway Avenue,
Mm-hmm.
then we can get that address and we can know where the location is, because the location is important, because then that tells us that we own it, if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. So um, of course I cover the city of Cincinnati. So if the offense happened in the city of Cincinnati, then it is our investigation. It's our report to make. Now, there are numerous times. There's a gentleman I'm working with right now that lives here, but the offense occurred in Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
So I still make the report, but I'm sending it to Louisville and working with them so then they can take over the investigation and handle it. So not to say that it can't happen out of jurisdiction, but it just takes longer to connect people to get the assistance to the victim. But location is huge as far as police departments are concerned when helping victims, because that's how we generate the report.
That is very good. So one of the things that my clients always tell me it is that, well, I think that they were holding a knife
Hmm.
or a tool
Hmm.
that they used to hit me with or to threaten me with.
Hmm.
And normally they leave it out of the narrative or the conversation
Hmm.
because they are not 100% sure and they don't know how to prove to you guys
Hmm.
that they were using force.
Sure.
So I say, still, your word, it is very important and it has value because
Hmm.
in Latin America, if your word doesn't actually amount for that weight in evidence, right? If you say that such and such had a gun,
Hmm.
you have to be able to prove it, and that's what they feel. Or
Hmm.
somebody has to be able to give the testimony that such and such had a gun.
Sure.
So sometimes they feel that because they don't have any other means to prove it to you when they're making the report, it
Hmm.
is not worth it to say it, or if they are not completely sure.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just clarify that if the victim tells you that they believe that they had a gun, but they did not have the clear view when they were robbed, they
Right.
still count and it can be included in the police report.
Yeah. So this is when you get not only into force that's being used against somebody, but the attempted force that's
Mm-hmm.
being used, or the force that's implied. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say, and let's take an abstract example. If if a guy goes into the bank and says, "Hey, I have
Mm-hmm.
a gun. Give me all your money," but you don't see the gun,
Mm-hmm.
if it's implied and the victim is fearful that this is what's happening, then that's what it is, because
Mm-hmm.
you don't know for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but it's implied. I mean, you may not see it. You might see, a hand under a shirt or a hand in a jacket. But if the suspect says, "Hey, I have a gun. I want this money," then that person is going to get charged with that robbery. Again, which is under qualifying crimes because you're threatening. You're using the force of felonious assault to commit the crime.
Mm-hmm.
So in these cases, like if somebody has a knife, or if they're insinuating that they have a knife, or they're threatening the use of force against your person, then this is what we're looking at. This is what we're
Mm-hmm.
dealing with when it comes to those things, because they're implying that that level of threat is there. So yes, you should report it. even if you're not 100% sure, or maybe there's some deception with the suspect that may be implying that and not, just say everything that happened, so then we have a clear understanding of what kind of victim you are, so then we report the specific charge, and then we investigate that.
Yeah, excellent. You explained it again, really, really thorough. I know you were very good with the word implied force, that they don't have to actually be completely sure of what the suspect was holding, but at least how they felt.
Yes. Yes. I mean, that's why we're talking to the victim with these reports, because we need to know and understand, how the victim was, what the feelings the victim, had, and what they went through to be able to understand the appropriate crime.
Yeah. And going back to other languages that they are not English, I have some clients that they have been able to communicate with police by signing. So they can be very creative.
Yes.
So I have some client that they will say like this, like making the fist and punching, and you can understand, or kicking, like somebody kicked me, and just making the sign with the leg that somebody is kicking,
Yes.
or pulling the hair, or signaling in your body where it is somebody hurt you.
Yes.
Because sometimes, the injuries are not visible in that specific moment. The bruises, unless there is blood coming out from your body, it is not visible, and they will come out later on.
Exactly.
Will that be useful for you guys?
Absolutely. I mean, there have been times that I've made reports with people that are nonverbal through phone message. And so literally I would ask questions and we would type on the phone so that I can clearly get the information that we need for the report. So again, I mean, if there's a way and means to be able to communicate, we're going to make that happen. So then we understand everything that we have to do for our victims here. The other thing that we have is this is a card. So we give this out in the city of Cincinnati for all of our English second language learners. And then you could put this in your dashboard or have it in your visor, and you can display it and show the officer that, hey, I am an English second language. I may not understand everything you're saying to me, so I will need a translator, or I'll need some assistance here. And this you could just show, and you don't have to articulate this or say this. And we hand this out to all our community members that may have second language.
Can I show them?
Absolutely.
So it says, consejos para usar la tarjeta. Mantenga esta tarjeta en la visera de su automóvil en caso de que sea detenido por un oficial del orden público, o sea, un policía. Al ser detenido, inmediatamente ponga la tarjeta en la ventana para que el oficial pueda verla. We have to act this out. Mantenga sus manos en el volante hasta que el oficial le dé instrucciones. So put your hands in the wheel, what we have talked about it before. Espere a que el oficial se acerque al vehículo y lea la tarjeta. No se mueva de manera que haga pensar al oficial que usted está buscando un arma, que es lo que siempre están temerosos. Si usted no entiende lo que está diciendo, pida un intérprete. Esta tarjeta tiene la intención de ayudar en el evento de una detención de tráfico. La tarjeta explica que puede haber barreras de lenguaje. Las imágenes en el otro lado de la tarjeta pueden ser usadas por el oficial para pedir artículos y explicar la razón del cual ha sido detenido. Entonces, esto va en la visera, y en el momento que son detenidos, en ese momento agarran la tarjeta y la ponen en la ventana así. Entonces, no, like this, right? Like this.
Either way, because we as officers understand what this card means. So it doesn't matter if it's the Spanish side or the English side is up. We understand that, hey, once this was presented to us or we see this, we need an interpreter.
Yeah. So here it is in all the screens. I think that if you want one of this, even though that is being issued by the Cincinnati, the city of Cincinnati, in conjunction with the Cincinnati police, you can come to the Cincinnati police, or how can get that?
So yeah, so if you could come, some of the districts have these already. We hand these out at the Mark ID events that we have here, or if you email me, we will send you some if you need.
Yeah, and also email me if you want. I will take. Do you have some?
I will give you some.
So I can take some with me to the office, and if you want, you can also email me your address at defilia@valenciadias.com. What is your email?
So it's Anthony.Johnson at Cincinnati-OH.gov. And we've found these. I've had police departments down all the way in Georgia, all the way in California, saying that they love these. And I've actually sent them the images for these so that they can replicate them for their community members as well.
And it's very sturdy. So it is plastified. So if the kids get them, it is no way that they are gonna be turd. So it's very, very durable, and I feel like I'm just selling it. You know,
Right.
you can buy it. So it's very, very good. It is very useful, and it will take a little bit of the edge of what to do
Yes.
if I am stopped. It is excellent. We are in the progress of recreating some shorter videos of what to do. So I will play the non-speaking English person, and so he will act. So you guys know what you should do. So this is very good. So contact us if you want a copy of this. How you call it? Card?
It's card. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
basically it's an ESL second language learner card.
Okay, sounds perfect. Thank you for bringing that up. I have seen it, but I have forgotten. But anyway, so what else do you have in mind?
So the other thing we can talk about, and we talked about traffic stops. So this brings up the new law that's in the state of Ohio that's occurring. So before, if you had your cell phone in your hand while you were driving, or if you had it out in your vision and it wasn't MapQuest or something like that, then there was no reason to be stopped. Most people, you see people that are maybe texting or driving and things like that, it's illegal, but it was only illegal as a secondary violation, which means as a police officer, if I saw you texting while you're driving, I couldn't stop you or pull you over. Well, now, as of today, you can get pulled over for using your phone on social media or texting while driving, because this is distracted driving. And so basically the law is basically saying, to lock your phone up before you start driving. So it doesn't stop you from your hands-free device. You can have your Bluetooth and you can use that. You can have it on your windshield and use it as a map. But as far as doing like a live or doing any type of social media or anything while driving, you can get pulled over and you can be cited for this.
Okay, texting
as well, or anything in between while you're operating a motor vehicle. So if you're playing a game, or
plays a game while
believe it or not, it happens. So
Okay.
I mean, anything that's going to distract you, because the most important thing is getting to your destination safely. And I know with all this technology, everything makes it so much easier, and we can do lots of things while we're doing other things. But I mean, clearly, the reason why the upgrade in the law is because we have numerous accidents because of distracted driving. And if we can eliminate that even by one person, we've saved one life by this law.
Okay. So what about if you are in a stop? Can you use it?
So operating a motor vehicle is starting the car, it running. So even if you get to a red light, if you pull your phone on and you start texting at the red light, it's still something that you could be pulled over and cited for. So literally, the whole thing of this is that if you have to use your phone, text, what have you, if you have to go live or whatever, pull over into a safe parking spot, put it in park, and then handle your business. But if you're on a highway or you're a public, thoroughfare through here, you're not allowed to do that anymore.
So is that the Ohio Revised Code that was added, or is it just an ordinance?
It's upgraded into Ohio Revised Code. So this is the whole state of Ohio that's doing this now. This is not just the city of Cincinnati. This is the Ohio Department of Transportation, and they actually are putting a blitz out for it. So it's telling you what are off limits, and I can show you this is all on the website for Ohio Department of Transportation. But so for example, if I'm operating a vehicle and I'm dialing a number, I can get pulled over. If I'm sending a text message, I can get pulled over. If I'm on Safari searching for something, for people that have iPhones, again, I can get pulled over. If you have a video call, and a lot of people like to do FaceTime calls and things like that, you cannot do that anymore while operating a vehicle. And that's even if it's on the dash and you're driving and talking, because again, any video image could be distracting and taking your eyes off the road. So you could do audio calls, but you cannot do the FaceTime or visual calls, if you will. Couple other things that they have listed here is watching videos. So if you have YouTube on, or if you're watching Netflix or Disney Plus and you're operating a vehicle and you're the driver, that is a no-go anymore. And then I already had mentioned playing games, but even recording. If you're driving and you're recording let's say you see a sunrise and you're driving and you're trying to take pictures or you're recording the sunrise while you're operating the motor vehicle, that's a no. That could be definitely a reason why somebody causes an accident. Now, if you're the passenger backseat person, you're fine. But if you're operating the motor
So
vehicle,
if you
no.
want to take a picture of the traffic ahead of you, there's a no-go.
That's a no-go. You're not. No, that's again. We can pull you over for that.
Well, I can totally see many stories
Yes.
in Instagram that they're gonna be bye-bye.
Yes.
Okay, so what about so this is a screen. How is a mobile device operating a mobile device?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, because like some people, you'll see like and this might play into like Uber drivers and things like that. They'll have tablets to use for their services. And again, you can use the tablet for like the map and things of that nature. But as far as being able to, again, movies, things of that nature, anything visual that's going to take your eyes from the road, that again, we can literally pull you over for. We don't have to wait for you to cause an accident because of it. We can pull you over just because you're using this, and it may distract your driving.
Okay, and what is a punishable? What is the type of crime?
So it's a citation to, it could be any other things if you do cause an accident. So it just depends on what happens beyond that. But typically, if it's just being pulled over for that, it's a citation. If you're a juvenile, which this probably would fall under a lot of juveniles, people don't realize that so many points will suspend your license as a juvenile. Well, so many points will suspend your license as an adult too. Yeah. So if you get 6 points within a 6-month period, your license can be suspended. So that means a number of citations between that time. For juvenile, there are mandatory court appearances for these tickets, and they can suspend you because of those as well. So, I mean, this is a far-broaching or covering crime, so we can stop some of these accidents that really don't need to occur.
So can you tell me one of the accidents that you have seen or known that it could have been preventable and it was caused for distracted driving?
Well, I mean, this is a daily basis, like there's been a few accidents here the last few days where people would run into the back of a car. And that's just because you're looking at your phone and you're not looking at the traffic in front of you. We had one where there was a red light, but there's 2 lanes. So like the left-hand lane, people can go and turn left, but they thought they could go because you felt the car next to you go. So you hit the green, you hit the gas and you ran into the back of the car because again, you're looking at your phone. You're not looking at the traffic in front of you. And these are things that easily can be preventable, with focus on the road.
Okay. So it's only mobile device, but also I think that you can apply that for all other activities that distract you from driving.
Absolutely. But like I said, the reason this law was in place, but it was only in place if there was something else that you did wrong. Well, now nothing else has to be in place. Again, if an officer pulls up next to you and your phone is in your face and you're texting, whether the vehicle is actually moving or not doesn't matter. It's that the car is in operation, that the car is running, and you're on a public street.
Which remind me of one of our, I saw this facts in one of our cases that it was cited for DUI. He was not in the operating seat. He was not in the seat driving, but he was in the car, and he thought that he was not going to be cited for that, but he was cited for DUI. Of course, he was alcoholized. He had he was drunk, but he was in the car and he had the control of the car. And sometimes you feel that just because you are not driving and moving the car, you cannot be cited for a DUI or this new law, but it's also included having the control of the car.
Yes. Well, in this case, if you're in the passenger seat and you're not on a public roadway, then this would not fall under that though. So with OVI, operating the vehicle under influence, the reason why is because you can make the choice to start driving the car or do anything throughout that period if you're controlling the car and you're operating the motor vehicle, which again, operating the motor vehicle is the keys in ignition and the car running. You know what I'm saying? So it's important to understand the difference. Again, if you're a passenger, you're not operating the vehicle, the phone is within your, your space, then you're fine. Now, I can tell you one thing that happened. If let's say I'm driving and you're the passenger and you have the phone and you go, oh, look, this is so cool. Well, as soon as I look at that phone and an officer sees that, then I can be cited for that. Because again, that's in my vision, it's taking my focus off the road. So I may not have the phone in front of me. It could be you that gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
But again, you have to. I don't. Because some people worry about officers are just going to start pulling people over. The issue with this is that we've had so many accidents where distracted driving comes immediately into play. I mean, it's happening every day. I mean, it's happening while we're talking. I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, for sure.
And if this actually stops one person from operating the vehicle while being distracted with a phone or video or what have you, then we're saving a life. We're saving injuries. We're saving damages to cars.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we have questions.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Let me see. Here we have a question. It says, a couple of years ago, I went to a drive-through in Chick-fil-A, and somebody threatened to kill me. That's it. He didn't say anything else.
Okay.
So I hope that they could make the report. They could have done the report. They didn't say anything. So there was not a question. I don't know if it was a comment. You want to?
So, well, we could. I mean, if something like that happens, if you feel like you're in danger for yourself, then you definitely would need to report that. And again, I know there's a distinct fear about what police will do to you or what have you, but the important thing is that we're here to service you and protect you. So if you feel threatened and you feel like this is something that's endangering your life, please, report it. Go to a district, call, we'll respond, and we'll take care of you.
So this one is really good, and I think that it taps into what we mentioned last time. It was domestic violence. That it says, my boyfriend of 18 years, we have two minor kids. We struggle with psychological and emotional abuse. So, something that you want to mention there?
So this is what I was saying before about the police department having, a whole lot of wraparound services. It's not just about locking people up. So, and again, it's not saying, the psychological abuse and things like that, emotional abuse may not be to the level of criminal. We don't know. I mean, because I don't want to read into that situation. But I mean, clearly, if there's threats and physical harm and things like that, yes, it absolutely falls into it, and it's definitely stuff that we can do criminally. But we also have social services that wrap around this, like Women Helping Women or the YWCA. We even have safe houses that we can assist victims to go to if they need to. Even victims advocate services. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can come into play that can assist people, and again, perfect situation already. And the assistance may not be as perfect, but it's there for any of our victims that need that, especially going through a traumatic time. You're talking about psychological and emotional distress. I mean, it's not a situation people should be in.
Yeah. Also, you can see you should go to an attorney. Legal aid can also help you. You can see if there is grounds for a civil protection order. And from a civil protection order, you can also file a U visa.
Yes.
So just look for the resources. The resources are there. It is you actually going and seek for their resources.
Absolutely.
And if you
we work with all of those entities. We work with legal aid. Again, once you get to us, we can point you in the directions and get the people around you that you need if you need help.
Which is the whole purpose of this lives and these videos. So that there is resources out there, so you can go and seek them. So we have another question here from Walter Guardado. It says, what can I do if the police department do not want to give me the certification? My daughter was sexually assaulted. I live in Maryland.
Okay, so there's a few ways you can go about doing it. If they've made a police report and you cooperated with their investigation, then they should certify that. I mean, because that's all that's really required, is to make sure that you have a true offense. It's a qualifying offense, and then sexual assault is definitely a qualifying offense here. And that you cooperated with their investigation. If the police department doesn't have enough knowledge to know that this is what they're supposed to do, you can go to the prosecutor's office, and the prosecutor can also certify working with the community, so then you can feel protected in reporting these crimes. That's exactly what the U visa is for. if you have a department that is specifically doing that system, that's what I do here, really pretty much in this region. I go to different police departments in the system with information and what the U visa requirements are. And they do a pretty good job around here once they understand what this is and what we need to do to then go ahead and certify them and get them returned.
So, Walter, lo que está diciendo el oficial Tony es que si te comunicas con él puede hablar con los oficiales de Maryland, que es un gran favor. Entonces, si quieres mandarle un correo electrónico o si me quieres mandar un correo electrónico directamente, él te podría ayudar. I translate that for you.
No, I got it.
So what also I want to say here, it is that we have to know why they're denying the certification. Because if it's the daughter that was a direct victim and he needs a U visa, then he will have to be the indirect victim. And I have seen some law enforcement agencies denying the certifications because they are like, okay, the father was not the victim. The daughter was the victim, and the father, it is in the certification, the 19B, right?
And it's a good point. But again, if you understand
exactly.
stuff, you know that's what
that's the
we
law.
Can do.
The federal law says that in these type of cases, the parents can be the indirect victims because you go into the definitions of victims, and then you can make that argument over there.
Absolutely.
Hi and greetings. Yeah, that's it. No, I don't see more questions. On Facebook, it is glitching. So, what is happening? I don't know what is happening over there. Here, I think that we are back online in Facebook, and I don't think that we have more questions. Into somebody and discover that they enter with a tourist visa and they overstay.
Okay, so it's important that that you take care of the status. If you're on a tourist visa and you overstay, that you're going to be in that gray area status as far as being okay to be here, if you will. So you want to be able to try to either up that or take care of that, because it's better to be within your status when you're doing whatever you need to do as opposed to being outside of your status. So that's number one. But I mean, there may be reasons behind that. So if you're a victim of a crime and you haven't, gone to get that help, then getting that help would then help you as far as your status and everything else is concerned. It really just, I probably need a little more information to know, what you may need to be able to do that. But definitely, maybe meeting with your consulate or trying to figure out what you need to do to continue your status or get it back to being active is imperative.
But it doesn't mean that they cannot file a police report or you will arrest them just because of that.
Nope, not at all. Because first and foremost, we don't do federal law, so we're not enforcing, any type of documentation or anything like that. We're here to help any and all of our victims. So that's number one. But we can help get assistance for those things. So like if you have questions or answers, or we have to, be able to connect you with people that would have those answers for you, we're here to do that too.
Okay. So I think that the person that was through I guess that she was working or he was working in the kitchen, like a customer almost hit him, and she said, or he said, be careful. And the driver said something like, you want to die or something. It doesn't seem like something truly occurred. It was just a threat. There was no injury. It sounds like it. But in any event, I think that is just better to just run it by an officer in that moment. Do not wait, because if that happened years ago, then I don't think that it will be, if there is no injury and there is no evidence right now, it will be very difficult to file a police report. And if it's filed, the police report is filed, then it will, I don't know how much you will have a U visa based on that. Yo era un cliente de restaurante.
It's possible, so then we can get any type of video footage of I'm in serious danger. It might have just been somebody mad because somebody walked in front of somebody else, and that happens too. But if you felt like you were truly threatened and you were, your physical harm or your life or what have you, it's important to report it right away so we can get any and all the evidence that surrounds whatever that situation is. And like I said, it's been amazing, especially nowadays, how up to date the cameras are.
Mhm.
And usually your restaurants, their memory as far as cameras are about maybe 28 days long. So as soon as we get that report, we can get there and get all that camera footage downloaded. And again, it helps our case here as far as being able to help you as a victim.
Okay. Anything else?
No, I think that the important thing is, and I know we said this 1,000 times, if you think you're a victim of a crime,
Mhm.
or you know that you are, I pray that you're not fearful of us. And I pray that you come to us so then we can assist you, not just in the reporting of it, not just in the arrest of whoever did this to you, but any and all the other services that are connected to helping our victims. Because when something especially on the level of to help you, we're not just here to throw handcuffs on somebody. We're here to try to help you get through this process, because whatever has happened is truly traumatizing, and if we can assist you, we're here.
That's good. So, and he is being so good and helpful. So, if you need assistance with other officers around the nation that do not understand the U visa process, feel free to reach out to him. And he has been able to communicate with other officers and guidance regulations. It is just not so easy to understand, and they are counterintuitive sometimes to the day-to-day in law enforcement. Like an indirect victim, witness is also a victim. So sometimes a different world, which is immigration. So thank you very much.
No, thank you.
We will see you in May. Can you
In
believe
May,
it? In May.
absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.